You think you know Islam? You think it's just a prayer, a fast, a set of rules carved in stone? Nah. I thought the same, until life broke me down, until the noise of this world got so loud I couldn't even hear myself anymore. That's when I learned Islam isn't about silence. It's about clarity. It isn't about losing your freedom. It's about finding your purpose. I finally understood. Islam doesn't make you weak. It builds you. It doesn't cage your soul. It sets it free. Because real strength isn't in power, fame, or pride. Real strength is bowing your head to the one who gave you everything. And when you truly surrender, you don't fall. You rise. That's when I realized. I finally understand what Islam really means. Pause, intense stare, let the silence hit. Now it's your turn to understand it too. What if everything you thought you knew about Islam was wrong? What if the truth wasn't hidden in the headlines or in the noise of the world, but in the silence of your own heart? What if Islam wasn't about limits, but about liberation? See, that's where my awakening began. I grew up thinking Islam was a system of do's and don'ts, a checklist of prayers, fasts, and rules that chained your freedom. I thought it was just a religion built on restriction. But the day I started asking why, everything changed. When life hits you hard, when the walls start closing in, that's when questions start burning in your chest. I asked myself, if Islam was just rules, why did people who truly followed it walk with peace in their eyes? Why did they carry storms inside but still move with calm? There had to be more. And that's when I learned the truth. Islam isn't about control. It's about transformation. It's not about bending to man's will. It's about surrendering to the truth that's been calling your name since the day you were born. The word Islam itself means submission, but not the kind the world thinks. It's not about kneeling in defeat. It's about standing firm in purpose. It's about letting go of arrogance, greed, fear, all the poisons that eat your soul alive, and handing your heart to the one who can heal it. It's about saying, I don't control everything, but I trust the one who does. That's not weakness. That's power. You see, the world teaches you to chase money, chase fame, chase validation. But the more you chase, the emptier you become. Islam flips that script. It says stop running. Turn around. Face yourself. Because real freedom begins the moment you stop being a slave to your desires. And that hit me like a thunderclap. I had spent years thinking I was in control, building my life around ego and ambition, until everything I built started to crumble. That's when I realized Islam doesn't break you to destroy you. It breaks you to rebuild you. And that's the shock, the twist that no one talks about. Islam isn't a cage, it's a forge. It burns away everything false until only truth remains. Every prayer, every fast, every act of submission isn't meant to trap you. It's meant to train you. It's spiritual conditioning. It's how you build discipline in a world that profits off your distractions. You learn that patience isn't weakness, forgiveness isn't surrender, mercy isn't softness. These are your weapons, invisible, powerful, divine. When I started to live Islam instead of just learning about it, I saw everything differently. The same things that used to stress me, the losses, the betrayals, the failures, became lessons. Because Islam teaches you that nothing happens to you, it happens for you. Every pain is purification. Every setback is direction. Every moment is written with purpose. Imagine realizing that the things that hurt you most were actually gifts, wrapped in struggle, sealed with wisdom. That realization flips your world upside down, and suddenly peace isn't something you search for. It's something that grows inside you. You stop arguing with life. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, try me. Because you understand now, Islam is not just about surviving. It's about thriving with conviction. It gives you a reason to stand tall when the world tries to break your back. It teaches you that your worth isn't in how people see you, but in how God sees you. And when you start living like that, unshaken, unbothered, unbreakable, the world feels your presence. That's when I realized the transformation wasn't in my circumstances. It was in me. Islam didn't change the world around me, it changed the world inside me. It gave me the eyes to see meaning where I once saw chaos, strength where I once saw fear, and love where I once saw emptiness. It turned pain into purpose, confusion into clarity, and ego into peace. And that's when I finally understood. Islam isn't a religion of chains. It's a path to mastery, not over others, but over yourself. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you truly are, a soul created for greatness, guided by divine truth, built for balance, built for peace. What if everything you believed about Islam was a lie? What if all the noise, all the rumors, all the judgments you've heard about it were nothing but smoke and mirrors? You see, I grew up thinking Islam was rigid, unyielding, and distant. I thought it was a religion that separated people, created barriers, made life complicated. I saw the headlines, I heard the stories, and I watched the fear spread like wildfire. I believed Islam was a fortress, cold, strict, and unforgiving. But what I didn't know then was that Islam isn't about separation. It's about unity, and that realization hit me like a tidal wave I wasn't prepared for. What if I told you that every single person who walks this earth under the sun, no matter their race, wealth, or background, is equal in the eyes of Islam? That's right. Islam doesn't look at your color, your status, your family, or your bank account. None of that matters. What matters is the heart. What matters is the intention behind your actions. What matters is the way you live, the way you treat others, the way you walk through this world with purpose and integrity. The concept of equality in Islam isn't just idealistic or poetic. It's practical, revolutionary, and shocking if you've been conditioned to believe otherwise. For years, I believed the world's narrative that some people are superior to others, that power, wealth, or social status defines worth. I saw it everywhere. I felt it crushing me. And then I looked into Islam, and it slapped me awake. The Prophet said, "All humans are equal, only their piety distinguishes them." Imagine that. The one thing that truly matters isn't the car you drive, the house you live in, or the fame you chase. It's your character, your devotion, your integrity. Suddenly, everything I thought I knew about hierarchy, judgment, and privilege crumbled into dust. Islam teaches unity not just in words but in action. The 5 daily prayers, the fasting, the acts of charity, they aren't rituals meant to divide. They are threads weaving a fabric of solidarity. They remind you that you are part of something bigger than yourself, that you are connected to millions across time, across continents, across struggles and triumphs. What if you realize that you are never alone? That the Muslim brotherhood and sisterhood isn't just a concept, it's a lifeline, a force, a movement of humanity built on compassion, love, and respect for every soul? And the shock deepens. What if I told you this unity doesn't only apply to Muslims? What if I told you that Islam commands justice, fairness, and respect for all people, regardless of belief? That the Quran doesn't just preach brotherhood among followers, but calls for equity, kindness, and protection for every human being? That means your enemy, your rival, even the stranger who fears you deserves dignity, protection, and respect. That realization hits you like a hammer when you've been fed a lifetime of division, prejudice, and distrust. I began to see that what many people call religion was actually the opposite of what it truly is in Islam. It's not meant to isolate you from the world. It's meant to bring you closer, closer to God, yes, but also closer to humanity. Every act of worship, every gesture of kindness, every moment of patience becomes a brick in the foundation of unity. You start to understand that your actions ripple farther than you imagined, shaping a network of justice and compassion that can't be broken. Then comes the mind-blowing part. Islam doesn't just stop at teaching equality and unity. It makes it personal. It says, you are responsible for yourself, but your choices affect everyone around you. That means your respect, your honesty, your fairness, they create waves. Your arrogance, your cruelty, your prejudice, they do too. And suddenly the world isn't just a place to survive. It's a field of influence where your character becomes your legacy, and your unity with others becomes your power. I began to see that the divisions I thought were natural, race, class, nationality, were constructs that could be torn down. Islam didn't just promise equality, it delivered a blueprint for it. And that blueprint is alive, breathing, and waiting for anyone willing to embrace it. Once you truly see it, once you feel it, there's no turning back. Your vision of society, of humanity, of your role in it will never be the same again. The awakening hit me in waves. First shock, then disbelief, then awe. What if Islam was never about rules or restrictions at all? What if it was about tearing down walls and building bridges? What if the world I thought was divided was actually meant to be united under justice, love, and faith? That understanding changed everything. It rewired my mind, reshaped my heart, and gave me a vision so powerful, so relentless, that I couldn't look at people the same way ever again. What if everything you thought about strength was upside down? What if the world taught you that power comes from dominance, control, and fear, but the real power comes from surrender? That was the moment that shook me to my core. The moment I realized that Islam's idea of strength isn't what we see in movies, in sports, or in boardrooms. The strength Islam teaches isn't about overpowering others, it's about mastering yourself. It's about conquering the ego that whispers lies in your ear, the desires that chain you, the anger that burns from inside. I used to think being strong meant being untouchable, unshakable, always on top. But what I learned is that the strongest person isn't the one who pushes others down. The strongest person is the one who bows their head in submission, because in that bow lies control over the self, control over fear, and control over destiny. What if I told you that real victories aren't counted in trophies or applause? That every battle you think you win against someone else is actually meaningless if you lose the battle within? Islam teaches that self-mastery is the greatest conquest. It's about discipline, patience, and courage that no one can see but that shapes everything you do. Every time you resist anger, every time you forgive when you could lash out, every time you act with integrity when no one is watching, you are flexing a strength the world can't measure. And the shock of it hits you. All this time you thought strength was loud, visible, and flashy. Islam says, no. True strength is quiet, controlled, and invisible until it becomes unstoppable. The first time I truly understood this, it hit me like a storm. Life had thrown me into situations where I felt powerless, where the world pressed down on me with injustice, pain, and betrayal. I felt the old me rising, the one that wanted to fight back, to lash out, to dominate. But Islam whispered a different path. Stand tall, yes, but not to overpower. Stand firm, yes, but not to control. Stand strong, yes, but over yourself first. And that shook me, because it went against everything society had drilled into me. The shock wasn't just that strength is internal. It was that the internal strength always overpowers the external chaos. Always. And then comes the revelation. The world celebrates those who dominate, but Islam celebrates those who endure, those who submit, those who channel their energy through faith and integrity. You start to see heroes differently. The greatest are not the loudest or the richest or the most feared. The greatest are the ones who carry their burdens with dignity, who rise when they are knocked down, who forgive when the world would rather see revenge, who stand for justice when standing costs everything. That's when the idea of strength flips. Your whole perception of what it means to be powerful is challenged, shattered, and rebuilt into something sharper, something unstoppable. What if your weakness was your greatest teacher? Every fear, every temptation, every time you wanted to give in, that was your training ground. Islam turns your trials into weightlifting for the soul, shaping resilience, patience, and clarity. Every struggle becomes a tool to sharpen your spirit, and the more you surrender to the process, the stronger you become. The real shock is that surrender doesn't make you weak. Surrender is the fuel for a power that no one can break. A power that doesn't depend on others. A power that can't be bought, stolen, or taken away. Then I saw it in action. People who had nothing materially, who had been beaten by life repeatedly, walking with a peace and confidence that radiated through every word and every glance. That was strength in its rawest, most terrifyingly beautiful form. It didn't demand respect. It commanded it silently, effortlessly. That's what Islam had been teaching all along. Power isn't measured by what you have. It's measured by what controls you and what you choose to control. When your soul is aligned, when your intentions are pure, when your will is surrendered to a higher truth, you become unbreakable. And it doesn't stop there. Islam links this internal strength to action. You don't just submit and sit still. You act, you move, you protect, you give, you speak. Every action, every choice, every decision flows from that inner mastery, and suddenly your presence changes the world around you. You aren't acting out of fear, greed, or ego. You act out of purpose, conviction, and clarity. That's the shock. The invisible chains fall off, and you realize that the power you had been seeking in the world was inside you all along. It was never in others, it was never in possessions. It was never in approval, and then it hits you fully. Real strength is being unshakable in your faith, untouchable in your integrity, unstoppable in your actions. It's not loud. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need recognition. It's the quiet force that moves mountains because it first mastered the mountain inside you, the storm inside you, the weakness inside you. That's when you finally understand what Islam really means, not just as a religion, but as the blueprint for unbreakable power. If everything you believed about purpose was a lie? What if all those years you spent chasing validation, chasing money, chasing recognition, chasing fleeting moments of satisfaction, were just distractions keeping you from the real reason you exist? I used to think life was about survival, about getting by, about stacking experiences until one day you felt fulfilled. I thought success was measured in applause, in possessions, in influence. But then something hit me. Hard, sudden, undeniable. Islam revealed a truth so shocking that it shook me to my core. Nothing in this world matters unless it aligns with purpose. And purpose isn't what you chase. It's what you live. What if I told you that every single second of your life is part of a test you can't escape? That the choices you make, the words you speak, even the thoughts you allow to fester in your mind are not invisible, not meaningless, but recorded, measured, and weighted in ways you can't see? I couldn't believe it at first. I laughed at the idea. I thought, how could a system so ancient understand the complexity of modern life? But the more I looked, the more I realized Islam isn't about restrictions. It's about responsibility. It's about understanding that every moment is precious, and every moment carries consequences far beyond what the eye can perceive. Life is so messy, so chaotic, so unpredictable. We think we are in control, but we are blind to the invisible threads that guide our destinies. Islam teaches that life is a test, not a curse, not a punishment, not a random series of events, a test. Every hardship, every failure, every heartbreak, every triumph is designed to reveal who you really are. That realization hit me like a lightning bolt. It was terrifying. It was humbling. It was liberating. Because when you see life as a test, suddenly your perspective changes. You start measuring your actions not by what others think of you, but by what you know is right in the eyes of God. What if I told you that success isn't about what you accumulate, but about how you live your values? That wealth, fame, and comfort are meaningless if your soul is bankrupt, if your conscience is heavy, if your heart is corrupted by selfishness. That realization was a gut punch. I had spent so much energy chasing things that, in the grand scheme of life, were dust. Islam forced me to face a mirror I didn't want to look into. It forced me to see that all the external victories I thought mattered were hollow, temporary, and fragile. And the shock didn't end there. Islam gave me a framework to measure success differently. Not by what you gain, but by what you give, by the integrity of your intentions, by the way your actions ripple through the world. Purpose isn't abstract. It's not a fancy motivational speech. It's concrete. Islam teaches that your purpose is tied to accountability, to making choices that honor your existence, and to acting in ways that uplift others while maintaining your own connection to truth. Every act of worship, every moment of reflection, every decision to forgive, to give, to help, to speak justice becomes a step toward fulfilling that purpose. And that realization is mind-blowing because it turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. A simple act becomes a cornerstone of meaning. A routine becomes a sacred ritual. And your life becomes a statement of significance, far beyond anything society measures. What if I told you that living without understanding purpose is living in chaos disguised as freedom? You think you are free because you can spend, consume, and indulge at will. But real freedom comes when your actions are aligned with intention and guided by divine wisdom. Islam doesn't restrict freedom. It liberates it. It sharpens it. It transforms it into something unstoppable. And the more I embrace this, the more I realize that the moments I wasted worrying about trivial things competing with people, or seeking validation were moments lost forever. The shock was both terrifying and exhilarating. Life is finite, but purpose is infinite. And then comes the ultimate revelation. Accountability isn't punishment. It's empowerment. It means that you are entrusted with a life, with choices, with potential, and how you navigate them determines your legacy. Islam doesn't just hand you rules. It hands you clarity. It shows you that purpose isn't discovered in books, in trends, in social media posts, or in approval ratings. It's discovered in understanding who you are, why you were created, and how you are meant to interact with the world. That insight flips everything upside down. I began to see every hardship, every victory, every encounter as part of a map, a test, a chance to prove who I really am. And the most shocking part? Once you grasp this, you cannot go back. Life becomes intentional, precise, powerful, and terrifyingly beautiful. Your every decision matters in ways you can't even imagine. Every second becomes sacred. Every act of kindness, every word of honesty, every moment of patience is a declaration that you understand your purpose. Islam transforms chaos into clarity, aimlessness into direction, and fear into courage. What if everything you believed about peace was upside down? What if you spent your entire life chasing comfort, chasing calm, chasing quiet moments, only to realize that peace isn't the absence of struggle? It's born from something far deeper, far stronger, far more shocking. I grew up thinking peace was sitting in silence, avoiding conflict, hiding from challenges. I thought peace was soft, fragile, like glass that could break the moment life hit hard. But Islam hit me with a truth so powerful, so mind-shattering, that it changed everything I thought I knew. Real peace doesn't come from avoiding the storm. It comes from standing in the storm and knowing you are unshakable. What if I told you that Islam doesn't teach peace through weakness? That all those people you saw living in fear, trying to avoid confrontation, mistaking passivity for serenity, were missing the point entirely? The peace Islam offers isn't fragile. It's forged in fire. It's strengthened through faith. It's a power that makes you untouchable, unbreakable, and unstoppable. I didn't understand this at first. I thought peace meant sitting back, staying quiet, waiting for life to stop hitting. But the moment I realized that peace comes from submission not to fear, but to God, everything inside me shifted. My heart, my mind, my very being began to resonate with a calm that no chaos could penetrate. What if I told you that the world's definition of peace is a lie? Society tells you peace is comfort, leisure, wealth, control, influence. Islam says peace is mastery of self, clarity of purpose, and trust in a higher power. And when you truly grasp that, the shock hits you like lightning. Every time life tries to shake you, every time betrayal cuts deep, every time chaos screams louder than your own voice, peace doesn't run away. It stands, rooted in faith, anchored in conviction, and moves through you like a force the world cannot touch. That realization alone is enough to make your soul tremble and your heart race. I remember the first time it truly hit me. I was in a situation where everything seemed lost. Betrayal, loss, fear, anger boiling inside me. And all I could do was fall to my knees, bow my head, and surrender. And in that surrender, the most shocking thing happened. I felt a power I had never felt before. A calm so fierce, so consuming that nothing external mattered anymore. It was as if the universe had stopped, and I was standing in a bubble of unshakable certainty. That's the peace Islam teaches. Not a fragile illusion, not a fleeting calm, but a force so strong that no chaos, no betrayal, no loss can penetrate it. What if I told you that peace isn't something you find? It's something you earn. That every trial, every struggle, every hardship is a training ground, and with each challenge, your capacity for true peace grows. Life doesn't give you peace for free. Islam teaches that peace is forged through patience, perseverance, and unwavering faith. The more you submit to the process, the more storms you endure, the stronger, calmer, and more focused you become. And the shock is in realizing that what once terrified you, what once threatened to destroy you, now becomes your greatest teacher, your strongest ally, and the source of your inner calm. And the revelation doesn't stop there. Islam links peace to action. Real peace isn't passive. It's not sitting back while the world collapses around you. It's moving through the chaos with integrity, courage, and clarity. Every decision, every choice, every act of forgiveness or mercy strengthens that peace. And when you live like that, the world feels it. Your presence shifts the energy around you. People sense it. Challenges sense it. Fear itself hesitates before it. That's the shocking part. Peace doesn't make you soft. It makes you unstoppable. What if I told you that the way to true peace is to stop trying to control the uncontrollable, to stop clinging to comfort, to stop fearing the storm? Islam teaches that real peace comes from aligning yourself with the one who controls everything. When you realize that, nothing can shake you. The losses, the betrayals, the heartbreaks, they are no longer chains, they are lessons. They are fuel. They are opportunities to grow stronger, to rise higher, to become a force so resilient that no external chaos can touch your soul. The shock deepens when you see the world around you. Chaos, conflict, fear, pain, and you realize that peace isn't the absence of these things. Peace is walking through them with unwavering faith, unstoppable focus, and clarity of purpose. That's when I understood that the peace Islam offers isn't optional. It's transformative. It's revolutionary. It doesn't just calm the mind. It steels the heart, sharpens the spirit, and turns every hardship into a stepping stone toward mastery over yourself and ultimately over your destiny. What if everything you thought about power was backwards? What if the world told you that strength is about domination, control, and fear? But the real power lies somewhere you've never looked before, inside yourself. In faith, in submission to something greater than your ego? I used to chase power in the wrong places. I thought it was in wealth, in influence, in having people bend to my will. I thought strength meant being untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable. But Islam showed me something so shocking, so counterintuitive, that it shattered everything I believed. The greatest power is not over others. It is over yourself. What if I told you that every time you give in to anger, every time fear makes your decisions for you, every time your ego whispers lies and convinces you to act selfishly, you are weaker than you think? That's what I realized. True power is not in pushing people down. It is in mastering yourself, your desires, your impulses, your mind. Islam teaches that the person who can resist temptation, control anger, and act with patience and purpose is stronger than the one who dominates millions through fear or force. That idea alone flips the script on everything society celebrates as power. The first time I grasped this fully, I felt like the ground beneath me shook. I saw people who seemed weak to the world, people who had nothing materially, standing taller than kings and conquerors because their strength was invisible, internal, unbreakable. They carried storms inside but did not collapse. They faced betrayal, loss, hardship, injustice, yet they moved forward with calm, clarity, and unwavering purpose. And it hit me. This was the real definition of power, not the loud, flashy, attention-grabbing power we are taught to crave. This power was quiet, disciplined, and unstoppable. What if I told you that this internal power can influence the world around you more than any army or empire ever could? When your mind is disciplined, your heart is aligned, your intentions pure, the energy you radiate changes everything. People notice. Situations change. Challenges bend. Fear loses its grip. That's the shock. The strength Islam builds isn't for show. It's not performance. It's a force that moves silently, but inevitably, reshaping everything it touches. It turns vulnerability into advantage, patience into a weapon, and submission into supremacy. Then comes the deeper realization. What if I told you that this power is also freedom? That the more you master yourself, the less you are a slave to desires, anger, fear, and ego? Islam teaches that real freedom is not doing whatever you want whenever you want. That is slavery dressed as liberty. Real freedom comes when your will is aligned with divine guidance, when your heart is disciplined, when your purpose is clear. The more you surrender to the right path, the stronger and freer you become, and the world can no longer dictate your peace or control your destiny. The shock of this truth doesn't stop there. Islam links this power to action. You are not just mastering yourself to sit idle. Your strength becomes action, your discipline becomes influence, your clarity becomes impact. Every prayer, every act of charity, every choice to act with justice, mercy, and integrity is a declaration of power. And when you live like this, life responds differently. Obstacles no longer intimidate you. Challenges no longer overwhelm you. Opposition no longer breaks you. The power is internal, but the effect is external. It changes everything. Your perception, your reality, and even the way others experience you. What if I told you that the world fears this kind of power more than any other? Society fears people who are unshakable, disciplined, and aligned with purpose because their influence is unstoppable and cannot be bought, coerced, or broken. That is the shock. The power Islam builds doesn't need validation. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't need recognition. It exists on a higher level. It's enduring, untouchable, and it can't be taken away by anyone but yourself. Then comes the final revelation. This power transforms every aspect of life. Your fears become small, your distractions fade, your challenges become opportunities, and your vision becomes clear. You start to see life differently. You understand that your real strength isn't measured by how many people you can control, but by how many times you can rise when knocked down, how many times you can resist what destroys you, how many times you can act with integrity when no one is watching. That's the shocking truth. Islam gives you power the world cannot comprehend, a force that is quiet, invisible, yet unstoppable. And once you embrace it, nothing and no one can touch you. What if everything you believed about your life, your choices, your destiny was just a shadow of the truth? What if all the chaos, all the struggles, all the noise around you was not random, but part of a plan so precise, so powerful, so shocking, that it could change the way you walk through every moment forever? I used to think life was a series of accidents, a chaotic mess of wins and losses, a random lottery where sometimes you succeed and sometimes you fail. I thought the universe didn't care, that my efforts, my prayers, my intentions were meaningless in the face of chance. But Islam revealed a truth so electrifying, so unsettling, that it ripped that illusion away. Nothing in life is meaningless. Everything is accounted for. And every choice matters more than you ever imagined. What if I told you that every second of your life is recorded? That every thought you think, every word you speak, every action you take is being observed, measured, and weighed with perfect precision? I couldn't believe it at first. It sounded impossible, overwhelming, even terrifying. The idea that nothing escapes notice, that nothing is lost or forgotten, was like a shockwave through my entire worldview. But the more I reflected, the more I realized that this is exactly what gives life its depth, its gravity, its urgency. Every moment becomes sacred, every action becomes a statement, and every choice becomes a weapon or a shield in the game of existence. What if I told you that this accountability is not punishment, but empowerment? That every trial, every challenge, every heartbreak you face is an opportunity to rise, to prove, to refine the person you are becoming. Islam teaches that life is a test, but not in the cruel sense we often imagine. It is a test designed to reveal your potential, to forge your character, to teach you what real strength, real patience, and real faith look like. The shock of realizing that every difficulty you ever faced was not random, but a building block for something greater, hits like lightning. Suddenly every pain is no longer wasted. Every loss, every betrayal, every failure transforms into fuel for your growth. And then comes the revelation that your intentions carry more weight than the world gives them credit for. What if I told you that the hidden motives behind your actions, the sincerity in your heart, the purity of your intention, determine the value of everything you do? You could give the world everything you have, but if your heart is clouded with selfishness, ego, or pride, it counts for nothing. That idea is shocking because it flips the way we measure success. The world teaches that results, outcomes, and appearances matter most. Islam says no. What counts is what's in your heart and how you align yourself with truth. That understanding alone can shake someone to their core because it demands total honesty with yourself and the courage to act rightly even when nobody is watching. What if I told you that knowing this could make you unstoppable? That understanding life as a precise test, as a series of measured choices, as a field where your intentions and actions carry infinite weight, can transform fear into clarity, confusion into purpose, weakness into strength. Once I realized this, I started to see life differently. The setbacks no longer crushed me. The betrayals no longer broke me. The losses no longer made me bitter. I understood that every single moment was a chance to rise, to act with integrity, to move closer to the person I was created to become. And that realization is terrifying and liberating at the same time. The shock intensifies when you realize that this level of accountability is paired with mercy. What if I told you that even though every thought, every word, every action is measured, the door to forgiveness and redemption is always open? Islam doesn't trap you in fear. It empowers you to correct, to repent, and to grow stronger than before. That means even when you fail, even when you fall, even when the weight of your mistakes seems unbearable, the path forward exists. But it requires courage, self-awareness, and willingness to confront the truth. And that confrontation is enough to jolt you awake like nothing else. What if I told you that most people never realize this? They live as if their lives are random, as if their choices don't matter, as if there's no plan, no meaning, no accountability. And that's why they struggle, why they feel lost, why they chase empty pleasures that vanish the moment they reach them. Islam offers a different reality, a life where every act is meaningful, every intention counts, every struggle is purposeful, and every success is earned in alignment with truth. That knowledge is shocking because it forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew about life, power, purpose, and destiny. And then comes the ultimate realization. Once you understand that every choice matters, that every moment is accounted for, that every intention carries weight, you can no longer live casually. Life becomes intentional, focused, disciplined, and relentless. You begin to see the impact of every word, every gesture, every thought. And the shock of that truth ignites a fire that cannot be extinguished. You see that Islam doesn't just teach rules. It hands you mastery over life itself. A roadmap for accountability, a blueprint for purpose, and a power so profound that once you embrace it, nothing and no one can shake you. Today, I stand here not as someone who simply learned about Islam, but as someone who has felt it, lived it, and let it transform every corner of my being. I've realized that Islam is not just rules, rituals, or traditions. It's a blueprint for life, a map for strength, purpose, peace, and unstoppable power. It teaches us that true strength comes from mastering ourselves, that unity and compassion define real greatness, that purpose turns every struggle into a stepping stone, that peace is forged in the storms, and that every choice carries weight beyond imagination. Islam doesn't limit us, it liberates us. It doesn't weaken us, it empowers us. It doesn't demand perfection, it demands sincerity, courage, and faith. And when we embrace it fully, when we live it with intention and heart, we unlock a power the world cannot touch, a clarity the world cannot shake, and a peace that even chaos cannot disturb. So stand tall, walk with purpose. Master your mind, your heart, and your actions. Let every choice you make be a reflection of the truth you now carry inside. And remember, this is not just about understanding Islam. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, unbreakable, unstoppable, and unstoppable in faith. Good luck to each and every one of you on your journey. May your path be guided, your heart be strong, and your spirit be unwavering. Thank you for letting me share this moment, this truth, and this power with you.